In early October 2025, a tropical depression over the South China Sea quickly strengthened into Typhoon Matmo. On October 5th, Matmo moved northwest and made landfall in China's Guangdong and Hainan provinces, with sustained winds reaching Category 12 and gusts up to Category 14 on the Beaufort scale. According to China's Ministry of Emergency Management, more than 347,000 people were evacuated from danger zones. Thousands of homes were damaged, and widespread power outages and transport disruptions were reported. As the storm weakened over land, its massive cloud system continued moving southward, spreading across the Vietnam-China border and triggering heavy rains in northern Vietnam. From October 5th to 8th, Matmo's circulation brought torrential rainfall across Vietnam's northern mountain provinces, including Cao Bang, Long Son, Ha Giang, Thái Nguyen, and Bac Ninh. Data from Vietnam's National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting showed rainfall ranging from 150 to 300 millimeters, with some locations exceeding 350 millimeters. Major rivers such as the Bangjian, Kikong, Cao, and Kong rose rapidly, many surpassing level 3 flood warnings. In Long Son, two small irrigation dams in Van Quan district collapsed, destroying dozens of hectares of rice fields. In Cao Bang, prolonged rainfall triggered landslides along National Highway 3, cutting off entire districts. The floodwaters surged from the highlands to the lowlands, inundating villages and isolating communities. In Ha Giang, over 40 landslides were reported within 2 days, blocking roads and burying homes. National Route 34 and Provincial Road 177 were completely severed. In Thái Nguyen, heavy rain caused the Cao and Kong rivers to overflow, flooding entire neighborhoods of Thái Nguyen City, Phu Bin, and Pho Yên. Vehicles were swept away, streets turned into rivers, and many residents were forced to flee in the night, carrying their children through rushing floodwaters. According to Vietnam's National Steering Committee for Disaster Prevention, within just 3 days, floods linked to Typhoon Matmo killed or left 8 people missing and inundated thousands of homes and farms. In Bac Ninh, a low-lying province between the Dung and Co rivers, rising waters quickly submerged large areas. Industrial zones in VSIP, Tiên Du, and Tucson were flooded, halting operations at hundreds of factories. More than 700 families were evacuated overnight. In Thái Nguyen, residential areas and industrial sites were completely cut off. Local governments and armed forces mobilized thousands of soldiers and police officers for rescue and relief efforts. They worked through the night to reinforce dikes, pump floodwater, and transport essential supplies to isolated areas. Before the water began to recede, northern Vietnam faced one of its most severe flooding situations in recent years. More than 120 communes across Cao Bang, Long Son, Ha Giang, Thái Nguyen, and Bac Ninh were submerged, some areas under 1 to 2.5 meters of water. Major highways including National Routes 3, 4B, 34, and 279 were cut off, making travel between mountain and delta provinces nearly impossible. The total flooded farmland across the northern and midland regions was estimated at 72,000 hectares, equivalent to 2.2% of Vietnam's total agricultural area. In the Red River Delta, nearly 20% of urban lowlands were under deep water, between 0.5 meter and 2 meters. To stop floodwater from pouring into villages, local authorities and residents filled hundreds of thousands of sandbags to build temporary embankments along village roads and canals. In Bac Ninh and Thái Nguyen, residents and soldiers worked side by side, stacking sandbags more than 1 meter high to block the flow. In Long Son, Emergency teams use sandbag barriers to protect riverside neighborhoods along the Mekong River. Yet floodwaters rose too quickly, breaching small dikes and cutting off rescue access. Many areas could only be reached by boats or canoes. Electricity was shut down in hundreds of communes as transformers were submerged and communication networks failed in over 80 remote villages. The transport of relief goods and food had to be done manually, on foot, or via detours stretching dozens of kilometers. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, more than 18,000 hectares of rice and crops in the northern Midland region were destroyed, along with nearly 12,000 livestock and poultry. Stagnant floodwaters raised concerns about waterborne diseases and post-flood epidemics. The government allocated 150 billion Vietnamese dong, or roughly $6 million, for emergency relief. Mobile medical teams were deployed to provide medicine, disinfectants, and hygiene guidance to flood-affected communities. Thanks to early warnings and coordinated action, many high-risk areas were secured and casualties were kept to a minimum. As the floodwaters finally receded, the extent of the damage became visible. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development estimated total losses from Typhoon Matmo's circulation at 8.7 trillion dong, or about $330 million. Tai Nguyen alone reported 2.4 trillion dong in damages, Cao Bang 2 trillion, and Longsan over 1 trillion. Thousands of hectares of crops remained waterlogged, and hundreds of roads and bridges were destroyed or washed away. Despite the devastation, early evacuation efforts and timely coordination helped reduce human losses. In the aftermath, residents began rebuilding. They cleaned mud from homes, repaired roofs, and restarted farming. On newly drained fields, farmers planted again, hopeful for the next harvest. Schools reopened after disinfection, and life slowly returned to normal. Images of soldiers carrying the elderly, children walking back to school, and farmers replanting fields became symbols of resilience and solidarity. Typhoon Matmo 2025 once again reminded us that natural disasters know no borders. A storm that made landfall in China brought severe impacts hundreds of miles away in Vietnam. But amid the destruction, the strength of preparedness, unity, and human resilience stood out. With timely warnings, community cooperation, and rapid emergency response, losses can be minimized and lives protected. Nature can be powerful, but so is the human spirit. And as the skies clear and sunlight returns over the flooded plains, one truth endures. After every storm, there is always a brighter day.